name is Jesus, Father. Name is Jesus, Father. Thank you for this moment. Thank you for this opportunity, Father. I pray if we go into this conversation, Father. I pray for you guide us in this conversation. But I pray for you bless each one of us that is here. And I pray for those that will listen. I hope that they're able to take something from it. I ask for all this and more. In Jesus' name I pray.
Amen.
So good afternoon, all. My name is Debola, and I'll be hosting the panel of how to go from yes to I do. And today I have the pleasure of having these wonderful panel here. We'll start with on my left, and I'd love you guys to introduce yourself.
Okay, we are the English Families, been married 4 years.
Thank God for that.
We have 2
We
kids.
have 2 kids, yeah.
They have 2 kids. And next, Debola.
My name is Debola. Currently engaged on my way to saying I do. Represented my fiance, Bianca.
Thank you.
Okay, and we are the Temi and we've been married for slightly over 4 months now.
Thank God for all those relationships. So I have a couple of facts that I want to put out there for those before we start this conversation. And one is that nearly 2/3 of all marriages starts off in debt. So that's 66% of people get married and they are in debt. That's any kind of debt, student loan debt, credit card debt, that's all included in that stats. 2 is that 52% of wedding, the parents pay for it. So those, when people get married, 52% of their parents contribute to it, whether it's give them a check or family, they contribute to the wedding. Also, 1 in 5 Americans have gone to debt for their own wedding, with a quarter, 25% going 10,000 or more into debt. And nearly 2/5 of Gen Z respondents have gone to debt to fund their wedding. So it's more likely for this current generation to go into debt to fund their wedding for different reasons, not having the income, not having the resource, the family support. So hope this conversation go into how to avoid those financial crises. So to start the conversation is, when should you start talking about finance when thinking about marrying a significant other?
In my personal opinion, if you've already decided that this is who the Lord wants you to be with, or if you've already understood that, day one. As soon as you realize that this is the person that you want to have a future with, there's no reason to delay that conversation. I think that should be number one. I want to say that's what we did. Because we always talked about money, but obviously the closer we got to the wedding, the more it became okay, how are we spending this and how are we gonna pay for that and what are we gonna do? But yeah, we've always kind of talked about money and how much is coming in and is where the money's going when it comes in and what's being paid for, and yeah.
Okay. Anyone else?
Yeah, I would say definitely. Well, I would say looking back, well before the actual, even proposing, I would even say that is something that should be discussed. I'll speak for myself that I wish I was in a better financial position thinking ahead of that. Not to say that was the guiding decision, but I think there are just certain things that you have to have in place, certain patterns of saving that you should be looking into when planning a wedding, because it's not easy. Expenses will creep up on you. So the more prepared you are, the better. And yeah. Yeah, I'm sure everyone going through this right now, even before you get to I do, if you're dating in a way, I forget the term, dating with a purpose, you're asking these questions about your finances,
your faith and things like that. So that conversation comes up. So even before you get to, okay, we're gonna get married, you already should have a good understanding of their finances, not like super in depth, but like, what type of debt do you have? What type of debt are you will you get in the future? So all that goes into, I think if you meet the person, the Lord says to the person, you're gonna marry them. But having that understanding of what type of debt that they have lets you know what the timeline is, how you need to save, and then how you need to plan for the future. So you should already have some type of conversation like this before, like getting to like, let's get married.
That's well said. So I guess my question is, how do you go about starting that conversation? Because when you talk about money, it's almost like a taboo, because some people are not comfortable sharing their income, for different reasons. So how do you guys go about starting a conversation, or how did that conversation start up for you guys' relationship?
We just gotta
Well, this is what I'll say. If you plan to spend the rest of your life with someone, I think you should be open enough to talk about your finances and how you want to go about finance. And I think the conversation starts right from when because I would say that you before you want to say you want to get married to someone, you come to the point that you propose questions will pop up, like how many kids, what you want to do in the next 5 years and stuff like that. So it literally should come up, come up within the conversation. I can't say that there's a timeline, like I can't say, oh, it has to happen at an exact period of time, but if there is an openness, like there's openness in the marriage, like in terms of which should be, in terms of how you want to deal with every situation that comes your way, it's just gonna pop out. Like you cannot help it. It's because you cannot do without finance, whether it's your debt or whether it's your income or whatever it is. Like it is a conversation that just happens. It has to happen. You cannot hide it. The moment you start hiding, then there's something fishy. You know what I mean? So it should come out. It should be natural, basically.
I think. Sorry, I was gonna say, I think, like I said, we kind of just jumped into it, like, oh, how many kids do you have? I mean, how many kids do you want? The question was, oh, how many kids do you want? Oh, what do you want to do in the future? And oh, college. Your favorite college? Oh, you have debt. Oh, how much debt? Oh, okay. How do you want to pay it off? And it kind of just, we kind of just because like you said, if you're gonna spend the rest of your life with somebody, why wouldn't that be? Like, I know it's taboo to talk about money, but like, if we're spending our lives together, why wouldn't we talk about it?
Well, I just want to ask a question. Why is it taboo to discuss about it? Because I feel like it's a driving, it shouldn't be a taboo. I understand what everybody's saying, but money is like a driving tool, for everything that you want to do, and you'll be raising a family together. So I think the conversation is regardless of how inconvenient or how how taboo-ish, if it doesn't work, it is, you just have to, because it's gonna be problematic if you don't talk about it. It's like you are going to be in that situation where you just wish you discussed it.
Yeah, I'll answer your question from my perspective. I feel like the reason why a lot of people don't like to talk about finances is because like financial problems can be like baggage that you're bringing into a relationship, and nobody wants to put the burden of their baggage on anyone else. And it's also the fear of someone looking at you and like, this isn't what I bargained for, so I'm gonna end this relationship right now because you're not in the financial position that I want you to be in. And I think it's a big stigma, especially for men, to talk about finances because society tells us that men should be in some kind of financial standing to support their family, and whatnot. So I think that that's one of the reasons why people don't like to talk about finances. I think it's very bad. I think it's just, it's not a good thing, right? You need to talk about your financial standing. You need to talk about like where you are. It's, you know, with saving, do have a saving plan. If you do have a budget, those are things that you should be talking about. For us, we started talking about it like early on. We started talking about our finances pretty early. But I think that it's really important to be vulnerable, just share, just like if the two of you know that you are serious about, you know, your relationship, if you both like talked about, you know, we want to get married, you know, you've had an agreement that the two of you want to get married eventually. You've talked about your intention for your relationship. I think that then you can start having conversations about finances, where you are, what kind of debt you have, and the kind of lifestyle that you want to live, really, yeah, when you get married.
Yeah, I think I agree with everything everyone said. I think people are sometimes ashamed for other people to see like, you have that much debt. You know, everyone always has this feeling due to social media, and just like what we see on TV, that the person right next to me is doing so much better. And like, I don't want them to know that I have all this debt. And then people also, when they do have debt, when someone actually, like, what are you doing with it? People don't know how to manage it either. So if I had a lot of debt, but I know how to manage my debt, I'm less ashamed about it because, you know, I have a plan to get rid of it. And some people, a lot of people aren't educated on like, how do I manage my debt? What am I supposed to do with my debt? What's good debt? What's bad debt? So they don't want to share anything, and they don't want to feel judged. And you know, you don't want to be like, you meet someone and like everything's going great, then you tell them I have a lot of debt, and like that be the reason why like, no, I can't do this. Like, you don't know how to manage your money. Like, what does that say about you? You know? So people have this taboo, and it's also something like that's also a societal thing. Like, you never know how much your coworkers are making. You know, people don't talk about money in so many spaces because it's like you're not supposed to know about that, and that's what like keeps people in the same place, basically. Yes. But me and Bianca, we had, that was one of the first talks we had, was about money, like what you want to do, how many kids you want, you know, all those things that factor into it. And it's still an ongoing conversation because, you know, our finances are changing as we get promotions and we want to go back to school. So yeah, it's just it's always a conversation that's going to be there.
Wow, well, thank you. You know, what I want to say to Aya's question is that I think it goes back to how you was raised. But sometimes in families, you know, people don't get to talk about their money. They don't know how much their parents make. So now if I meet a person B and person B like, oh, how much do you make, Dami? Like, why are you asking me how much I make? And you know, and you talk about Instagram and social media, you know, the status or the standard, oh man, must have 6 figures before, you know, I was making this much money, a girl has to have this and that. I feel like it was a lot of pressure and it made people uncomfortable to even talk about money.
I just thought about something. It goes both ways, but sometimes for men, like there's a pressure on men, and then sometimes men are fearful of like telling a woman how much they make, and they'll be like, "Oh, you make that much money?" Same thing for a woman, like, you know, dudes be like, "Oh, she makes that much money. Okay, I don't have to do as much." So they don't want people falling in love with them before their money, you know. So they delay having those conversations or whatever. But it's so many things.
That's right. That's really funny. That's kind of leads to my next question. Where you kind of mentioned that when you're talking about wealth or money, people don't want any gold diggers or anything of that sort. They want someone who actually loves them. Leads me to ask, do you think getting married is a financial choice more than an emotional choice?
So my answer is, to be very, this is me. I believe that you go with the Lord, because if we let what was in front of us keep us from getting married, then we wouldn't have gotten married. But you go with the Lord, because it's like we were rich before we got married. we didn't even pay for our own wedding. Like it was like the Lord needed this to happen, and so He made ways for it to happen. We had a way of, we were just gonna go to the court and keep it simple, because it's like we were in school and all of that. So it's like we had a lot of help with our wedding, a ton of help. So I don't, I get that, I think, yeah, go with the Lord, because that whole money should be, I think if we let money be a driving force, then it's like, then we get so caught up in so many thoughts and ideas, and it's just like, if that's who the Lord, that one with $250,000 in debt that doesn't know how to manage it is the one that the Lord called you to, trust that He's gonna make it work for you. It may not look the way you want it to look, but He's going to make it work for you. Like it's, I don't believe in looking at the secular reasons for not getting married. I believe looking at who the Lord has called you to be with and trusting and relying on His decision for who He's called you to be with. Yeah.
I just want to add to that, when we were planning our wedding, yeah, to me, I just felt like there is no way we wanted to be together, right? Like there is no way we can afford the type of wedding that that everybody like identifies with or whatever. Like I was in grad school, she was in nursing school, but conversation was still around, our situation and what will happen after, afterwards, after marriage, after school. And it was clear, it was a clear conversation about where we're headed. Because at the end of the day, if your situation is different, like let's say you have money saved up and everything, and you don't really discuss like finances, you don't really discuss what happens after marriage, that's another problem. So I think where we were at that time, we had those conversations about what's gonna happen after this. Even as a matter of fact, like we're not really focused about having a big wedding, but we're blessed enough to have people around us, and I only like had to deal with a few very, very minor things. Like it was by God's grace, it was just pure from God. So it just depends on the situation. It depends if you find yourself in a situation where there's no what coming, you can delay the day you want to say I do by serving up, but our own situation is just different.
I'm sorry, last thing, I will say, and there's nothing wrong with the court wedding and then saving up for the wedding that you want later. I know that like a lot of people may be turned off by that. Oh no, I want it this way. Social media makes it look like, no, you gotta have it this way, and it has to look like that. It has to be trending or whatever, or viral or whatever they call it, and it has to be on Bella Night, and it has to be on all these things. And if it's not like that, then your wedding isn't lit, and all the like we get so caught up in things that really don't even matter. But like there's nothing wrong with a court wedding. We just wanted to be together. That was it. Like, and if we had a celebration, probably maybe 50 people surrounding us. Like, we just wanted to be together. That was it. And the whole money situation, like, yes, it was there, but like, we just wanted to be together. So, yeah. And if we had decided later down the line that we would have had a wedding, we would have done that. But if not, it wasn't like a big deal for us.
So I want to add something.
I have a question. So you're saying getting married, you're talking about the wedding itself, right? Not like marriage. You're not asking if it's you're asking if the wedding itself is more of a financial or emotional choice, right?
So I'm asking in terms of marriage, because after the wedding, it starts the beginning of after the wedding is the beginning of your wedding.
The marriage.
After the wedding is the beginning of your marriage. And oftentimes, you see in social media, you see in life that there's different reasons why people, go through that whole process. You hear people who gets divorced a week later, 6 months later, a year later. A second reason why most people get divorced is about finance. So my question is, why are you going through that process? From saying yes, when he proposed to you to now going through the wedding, even after the wedding, like what is the constant drive? Is it like, okay, this is a financial thing? He's making 50K, I'm making 50K, so together we're a power couple. Or is it, oh, this is something I need the support, I need this love, and like, well, I can answer. He said, no, it's more of Christ. This is my favorite partner. This is who God chose for me, and this is why I'm with this man. I hope that covers the question.
Yeah, that clarified it. Yeah, and I totally agree with what like I said. I feel like it shouldn't be a financial choice. And neither should it just be, and like there are emotions obviously that you will have, for your spouse, but it shouldn't be just purely based on that. You should always go to God. You should always lay your relationship before God. And let him direct you to where you should be. Because some people marry poor, and it's okay as long as you've made that choice together and in Christ. The value of your relationship or your marriage isn't based off of your financials, and it's not just based off of all of the lovey-dovey, because both of you will go through hard times and you go through, good times together. So you really need the foundation to be, based off, it should be on Christ. So yeah, thanks for clarifying that.
And I also really want to say something, because a lot of people don't really understand what it is to be married or what marriage is. And that's where the problem is. I've heard a lot of people just talk about the day, the clothes and everything. Like these are the conversations that they're having. I'm not saying this kind of conversation is bad, but like if you understand the concept of marriage, if you know what you're getting into, if you understand that God has called you to this, if you understand the spiritual implication of marriage, I feel like the conversation will be different. I know, this, I don't think it's off the road, I don't know, but I just want to say that evangelist Daddy Laurie tells us, like, if you are married to someone, you're coming naked, like you're naked, which means you have nothing to hide, which means that conversations are needed to be made. You have no secrets and stuff like that. So, like all these things are things that would help you when you get to that point, of saying I do, even if you don't have money, even if you have the feeling of making all of your wedding, I don't have a problem if you have a beautiful experience. It's amazing to have that experience, right? Because God takes all of the glory. But when you get to that point where you're so open, to each other, you would like literally go through all these things. Like you would overcome, you'd be in a better position as opposed to not understanding what marriage is, because a lot of people don't really understand. They just want to go with the glamour, the paparazzi, the viral content that can come out of their wedding. Like they don't really have this deep conversation. So when you get to that point, even if you have 10K to your name, you can still manage yourself that way. If you have $0, you can do a very small wedding, and later on when you're blessed, you can have something amazing. I tell my wife, I said, I'm still gonna, regardless of, by God's grace, our wedding was great, but regardless of what happened, I still want to have something private, something that I really want to do, that will invite very few people and we'll have a wonderful time. So it's like you can even do something else. Like we need to first of all understand what marriage is. Are we doing it for the hype? Are we doing this because your marriage was, your wedding was lit? Like we need to understand all this.
Yeah, and I also wanted to add that I think it's also okay, I think Rolake said this before, like it's okay for you to just do something simple and that's what you want and that's it. Because sometimes people just feel like, you have to have this big wedding. Some people don't even want all of that attention. They just want to have a private moment with their spouse. They want to just have a private, wedding, and that's it, and that's all, and that's okay. It's okay as long as the two of you have decided this is what you want to do and you're doing it together. You're not doing it, one person isn't doing it on their own, like the two of you are doing it together.
You're right. No, that was really great, and that kind of leads to a nice question, because you, Layo, you just mentioned, and you also say you can do something small. And I want to first ask, before I go to that question, how did the conversation go? Being the fact that you guys didn't have to plan your own wedding and, family support was able to provide for you guys that have the wedding still, not go the court route.
So we were talking about it, after he proposed, and we were just talking like, at the time his mom was still in Nigeria, and he was saying that he would like, cause the whole, getting people over here from Nigeria is much harder than there. So we were thinking about, gosh, how many people would we have to sponsor to come here? And again, we were students. I mean, after we got married, by God's grace, things got better financially, but like leading up to it, you know how it is when you're a student. And it's like, how are we gonna afford to bring the whole visa, sponsor the whole visa process, buy the tickets, and then bring people here and then still pay for a wedding? It was unrealistic. And we had to pick and choose who we wanted from his family to be here. And it's just like, it was like, there's no point in doing that. We're like, listen, we'll get some money, we'll go to court, and maybe we'll have a small ceremony after the court wedding. It was just like, because for us, it was like, we were tired of living in two different boroughs, going back and forth. We only got to see each other like once a week because of how school and work affected us. We were both in school and we were both working. So it's like, we were tired of the back and forth, seeing each other maybe once a week. It's just like, we just look together. I don't care about all that other stuff. And then we told my parents, and they were like, oh, we'll throw you away. And they were just like, okay. I don't know that we really wanted a big wedding, and it's no shade to my parents or anything, or not even my parents. It's no shade to our family. Like, there's no shade to them, but they really wanted to celebrate us, and they did. So yeah, our families really like went above and beyond, just to celebrate us and make sure that we got, or that to make sure that we make sure we were celebrated that day. So that's pretty much, that's pretty much how it happened. And you can fill it in right.
Well, I think you said everything. For us, it just wanted to get like living both usually by Staten Island. And as at that time, I was not driving, so even if at all I want to go to Staten Island, I have to take the ferry.
What's the train?
Like, like imagine, I came to America and it's a different environment, right? Where the transport system is out and I keep taking the bus because, it's not like and my only reason is because I missed my stop. Because sometimes they don't even announce it. So I'm like, I can ask for where is it? So I prefer to take the train because I can see everything that's in the next stop, even if it's not announced. So just imagine going through those like experiences and the back and forth, and I really wanted to be that. So I felt like, for me, I want a wedding, right? But I don't want something big, and it was different for us.
So my question is, if you only had $500 to your name, would you still want to have a wedding?
Yeah, because the wedding is not, and again, even in the Bible, Jesus Christ went to a wedding celebration. So it should tell you that it's supposed to be a thing of joy when people come together and celebrate, because marriage is a ministry and so on. So it is a thing of joy. But if you don't have the means, and my father used to tell me that you cut your coat according to your size, like you don't just do stuff because everybody's doing it. If you have the means, you can do it. And if it's just 500, so we have. I can buy a ring from that 500. You know, I can do a budget analysis. And I can say I'll spread that 500 will be so, like you will be so impressed how 500 can be a big deal. We'll have 5 people or 6 people, and everybody will eat and they will be satisfied. So
I think the biggest thing is also not getting into the pressures of family too, because family will say, oh, well, we gotta have this many people. This person from this side of the family has to be there, and you don't even know who that person is. And it just becomes like a long list of pressures that become added to you when you feel like it's now like, oh, I feel bad because I'm not, we know we want to get married, but it's like we also want our parents to celebrate with us and, for all the family that we want to come to. But being able to juggle that and, as you mentioned before, having to pay for all of that to bring people over, especially because we have a lot of family in Nigeria too, that we would have loved to come, but unfortunately with the visa situation and financing, it wasn't possible. But I don't know, I just realized over time that, if we want to be married, we want to be married. It doesn't really, not that it doesn't matter, but the things that we stress about as far as, the added finances and I have to have this much, I need this much set aside for this thing. There's so many ways you can consolidate that. And you don't realize it when you're planning because you're just kind of like going. But looking back, it's just like, I don't know. I feel like there maybe there are different decisions you probably would have made to a degree.
Well, I would say like for us, we make decisions, but we also have to respect family. We have parents, we have to respect. They also fall into our decisions. So it wasn't just about like what we decided to do, but we also had to consider there's so many, parent figures and parents and so many people involved. But I think at the end of the day, we still did our best to, stay within what or at least close to what we desired in terms of like expenses and in terms of everything. But I think if you have 500, I still think that, the two of you, you need to pray about it. You need to decide together what you want to do. If you just want to go to court, that's fine. If you want to do, if you want to do a small ceremony in the church and that's it, have your pastor pray for you, that's it. And that is okay. Like at the end of the day, all of that, all of the other things outside of that are just additions. It's not like the real deal. At the end of the day, when you say your vows, you exchange your vows, that's the most important part of, your wedding. Like you're exchanging your vows, you're committing yourself before God, that you're committing to each other. And that's what's most important. But I think that I think like we enjoyed our wedding. We loved it. It was what we desired. Some things didn't go the way we wanted it to be exactly, but it was still what we wanted at the end. We were very happy, with everything. And I think that, you also have to decide, what are your financial goals? We had other financial goals, so we didn't want to spend all our money on a wedding. We have other things that we want to, invest our money in. And so we had to make, that was our primary goal. And, we adjusted all of the finances, all of the things, just to, to be able to meet all of the other goals that we wanted to meet.
I just also want to add to say that, I don't want people, watching us to think that we're trying to demonize having a big party or, but the truth is, it's not just about that day. That day, yes, like it's okay if you have the means, but it's not just about that day. That day, you're coming together, the heavens, agrees to that union and stamps the union. But this is what I want you to really take out of all of this is that even if you cannot afford the wedding of your dreams, I've seen people do vows renewal. I've seen people do like a very big party to celebrate their spouse, or still invite people when they're in a financial position. So I think that we should not focus on the fact that it's just $500 that I have to throw a party or have a wedding. The most important thing is that your marriage is glorifying God. The most important thing is that God is in your marriage, and I believe that as you grow together, that God would show Himself the finances and your life together.
And you should do those little things.
Amen.
We sure do.
And I want to ask, based on what you're saying to my family, and how family to put pressure on you in regards to they can change the budget because they want certain people to be here, certain things to happen. How did you manage that pressure, and what was it like to manage that?
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, it wasn't easy. To a degree, we understood where our family members were coming from and why they wanted certain people to be there. So it's not like you just stop your foot and say, no, that person's not coming. Our parents being our parents, we have to respect them. So it was a lot of balance. But I think the crucial thing, as long as we were on the same page, me and my wife, about decisions that were being made, I felt like that was the most important thing, that we stand as a united front. When it comes to dealing with our family members, because if on one side I'm saying, oh, mommy wants to invite this person and I think it's a good idea, I'm gonna sign off on it. If she's not on the same page with me, then there's an issue, right? Because at the root of it, it's us. So I think it's just important that, you and your significant other stand as a united front in these decisions that we're making, because at the end of the day, it's you and your spouse, even when the wedding is done. So it's really just important that you stand together. Even, whether it's agreements or disagreements with, family and parents, it's really important that you stand as a united front.
Oh, go ahead. Oh, okay. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I feel like myself and Bianca, we were in a peculiar situation because when we were thinking about getting married, the pandemic was going on, and I was like, yes. That wedding is about to be real soon. And I was like, I'm not the type of person that wants a wedding or a big wedding. I never really cared for a wedding. I was more so of like, I want the marriage. The wedding is just that day, and I'm like, whatever. But I was like, the pandemic gave us a reason to limit the list, and that was just what we had to work with. So it made us understand, like, oh, who are the core people we need for this wedding to function? And we were making that list, and the pandemic started laxing it, and we could have a bigger wedding. So we definitely had to be on the same page. One, because I don't Bianca, she's from a different culture. She's not Nigerian. So I don't want her to feel like her influence is not being felt in the wedding. So we made it really simple. Said, you get this number of people, I get that number of people on my side, and you invite the people you want. And then just as Temi said, your parents might be like, oh, I forgot I want to invite this person, want to invite that person, and then my side is getting a lot larger than her side, and that's just how I know that's how my parents are. And then she's like, she has certain people that she wants to invite, and then I'm saying we got to make the list this small because I'm looking at the finances. I'm like, we only trying to spend this amount of money, and like every extra person is I see dollar signs. It was a tough ongoing process, and honestly, sometimes I felt like I was in the middle because I didn't want the whole big thing either way. Everyone on this side wants something on that side. So the main thing, just as Temi said, is I'm trying to remain united with Bianca. Like we're on the same page, and we understand. And I'm making sure like not only are we on the same page, but like her views are being heard, but also my parents are getting what they want because it's their celebration as well. So with that, that was the main core, us being united, and then me trying to make sure like everyone gets what they want. Now, for like them adding stuff, I kept it for honestly really simple. If there's something that you want that I don't want, my parents, you have to pay for it. Like you have to bring the finances for that because they are in total agreement. We don't want you to go into debt for the wedding, and I appreciate that. So is anything that I don't want in the wedding, but you want, you have to bring the money for that because I want a house. I want to invest. Like there's so many things that I want to do with money, and like I'm looking at the money we're saving for it. I'm like, wow, we could be doing a bunch of other things with that money, but we're doing this. So I will give you the people that you want to invite. But if there's extra things outside of what me and myself and Bianca planned, the money has to come from somebody else. And if you're okay with that, that's fine because parents will help. But that's the hard and fast line that we play with right now because it's serious. It's really serious. Like because your life doesn't stop as long as you're planning a wedding. You still got student loan debt, car note, insurance, tolls if you drive into work, food you're paying for, gas. You can't stop from refreshing your drink. These things do not stop while you're planning a wedding. And then I'm taking out money to save for the wedding. And so it's tough. And but you remain united with your spouse, continue talking and like looking at the money, like actually look at the money so you know what's happening.
Yeah. I'd say similar to Debola, I was gonna say, for us, yeah, we definitely you have to respect your, parents. Our parents were also very, very supportive, like financially too. It wasn't just, us spending money. They too, contributed, they spent money, they took care of some expenses. And I think that that's a conversation you have to have early. Like for us, we already laid out, like, this is our budget for the wedding. Where can you, we had to start having conversation of like what parents would take care of, what we would take care of, like things like that, because you need to know that early enough so that you know whether or not like, they're able to contribute to certain things or not at all. And you can, figure out your, expenses from there. So that was helpful for us. They contributed, to some of the expenses. And, and as time went on too, with like adding more people, yeah, we had to tell them, this is how much this is how far we can go, you have to meet us, in the middle there. And that was, how we were able to take care of like, finances too. So I think, we have to have that conversation early enough with family members, let them know how much you have, you're able to spend. Also, you need to know how much it was really hard for us because, family will be family. They're not going to tell you exactly how much, and they're not going to tell you exactly how many people they're inviting. Those were things that we wanted to know, wanted to know how many people are you inviting? It's hard, but it's an ongoing conversation. You just have to keep on having the conversation, as difficult as it is. You just have to keep on, talking and, be respectful. It's family. You don't want to fight with family during your wedding plan. You don't want to do that. That family, you're going to have your family after the wedding. So you need to, take care of, that relationship, not just, relationship with your spouse, but, take care of the relationship with your family as well.
So as from our perspective, in retrospect, I'm thinking back, we actually did stand united. In the beginning, like I was very upset because I'm like, I don't want a wedding. And my husband just kept saying, you know what, you're the first to get married and they really want to experience this and just honor them and honor them in this way. For so long, I kept saying, I don't want to do this. And then it was like, okay, whatever. We're gonna do this, especially because me, I don't like attention. I don't like people looking at me. I don't like it. It gives me anxiety. Like, and then on the day I'm thinking about, we're gonna have to dance on the day. Like, I don't dance. My husband dances, and it's just like I am not him, and I can't hide behind him because it's us that they're looking at. So there were so many things that were in my mind about why I did not want a big wedding. I am glad we had a big wedding the way I'm glad we had it the way we had it because, you know, like I said, to bring people from Nigeria here would be very difficult. And I'm glad that he really didn't have any restrictions on who he could invite. And like, we were able to be in Nigeria and all his family's in Nigeria and all his family was able to be there. And it was just nice. I'm glad that, you know, my husband really got to experience like his day with his people. And, you know, it's not easy being in a place where you don't know anybody, like, and then you have to build relationships with people. So to be able to go back to the people that you have been with your whole life, like that was nice. Now, as far as our parents go, as far as the invites go, you know, we all walked into it on both sides. Okay, this is how many people you're gonna invite, and this is how many people you're gonna invite, and just because of you guys know Layo's, it's just Layo's mom. She's a widow, so she had her invitation, and I told my parents just because it's two of you, the two of you get one, and this is what the two of you are. But this is what are allowed to. It's not about like, oh, there's two of you, so no. You two get to invite the same amount of people that she one gets to invite. So that was our thinking going in. But then the list grew and both our parents needed, they wanted, oh, I have to invite this one. Oh, I have to, because before it's like, oh no, it's not gonna be that much. I'm not gonna invite that many people. Who do I want to invite? Oh, who do you want to invite? Did you see our wedding? Yeah, it was very, very big. So I'm like, and then later on, like, he was talking about his mom. He got very upset with his mom. I got upset with my parents, and they're like, and it's like, just because our parents were paying for whatever they wanted, didn't mean that we wanted it to be that way. And I feel like they did, walking into it, they wanted to respect our wishes, but what the excitement of everything, and it blew way out of proportion. Yeah, we definitely had issues with our parents, but you know what? I ultimately was glad that my husband got to experience his day with his family, and that was all the joy that I needed. Yeah.
And that leads me to ask, you know, one thing that keeps coming to my mind is like, what's the cost of actually, you know, saying yes to your parents and saying no in terms of finance? Because, you know, Debola, you said that every extra person added to the list is $1 amount. So just imagine your parent wants to add 5 more people, or they want to have, like, you know, a Nigerian culture, a live band instead of a DJ. So all these are different courses. So how do you, like, what's the actual cost of it? Do you say no to everything, or like how are you planning on going about it?
So, thankfully, like my parents, while they were like, we're past the phase where they've been bringing extra people. It's really funny because I didn't want a big wedding, and I was like, you know, destination wedding, I have to sell them on that. And then everything has basically come full circle where everyone's agreeing with me, like, oh, this is the right idea, you know, it's just a lot of people, you know, you want to just invite certain people. You don't want to have too big of a wedding because you want to buy a house, you want to do this, you want to do that, you know. We don't want you to go into debt on the wedding. So everyone, like, it came full circle. So we see eye to eye on most things. The things that we don't see eye to eye is like do you want a videographer? Do you want a photographer? How long do you want a photographer to be there? I'm like, you just need a photographer for like an hour. They're like, oh, you need 2 hours. You know, you need to take a picture with the pastor. You can take a picture with the guests. You know, before and after. You need to have a video of the ceremony and a video of the reception. I'm like, is that really necessary? Like, I don't know. Like,
You'll like it, you'll be happy that you did. You'll be happy for that.
I barely take pictures. That video, so like.
Yeah.
Yeah, the memories. I'll take their advice. And like my parents wanted, Bianca would probably be okay with it, and I'm just like, how much that gonna cost? But you know, there's a balance you have to do with the finances of a wedding and also making sure everyone's happy because it is a memory that you're gonna have. So, like I said, like. My parents have before like me saying like you have to pay, they were very forthcoming, like this is what we're prepared to offer to the wedding to assist you. So it was very comforting to have that. I also felt very weird. This is probably another thing, like I'm not used to accepting money from people, especially that large amount. I've never gotten that amount. I haven't taken it yet, but I'm like, it's just weird. Like I'm not used to that. So I had a plan to like, this is how we're gonna save for the wedding so we can pay for it ourselves, you know, and not go into debt. So it's weird. Like my parents are very forthcoming, and we're on the same page. And things that they want, I'm like, hey, well, if you want that, you have to pay. Like, okay. So it's been very easy now with it. Yeah.
I'm gonna say. I know, surprising, like everything it's not gonna go to plan, and it's okay, it's okay. I was just gonna say, like, looking back, it's such a blessing that we had parents, that were able to, you know, contribute and help us with some of the expenses, you know, even though some of the expenses were to cover their guests, but still. It was very helpful. You know, we're really happy that, you know, they got to invite the people that they wanted, you know, to be there. You know, we're happy. We were going back and forth. We wanted to go to Nigeria. We wanted to have a wedding. We wanted to, you know, have, you know, all of our family members there. But, you know, certain decisions, the pandemic didn't help too, because everything was very confusing. We were planning our wedding at the height of the pandemic. So, you know, we were already thinking about, like, you know, all of that. So it didn't help, you know, making decisions because you're worried about, hey, do I invest? Do I put down payments for this? And then all of a sudden everywhere gets shut down again. You know, those are things that, you know, were going through our minds. And then again, we had the conversation similar to about, like, you know, actually our parents kind of persuaded us, like, you know what? Why do you want to go to Nigeria and spend all of your money, you know, and spend, you know, you don't really know how much things will cost in Nigeria, because it's not, you know, it's not any cheaper going to Nigeria to, you know, do your wedding. And then they were like, oh, you know what, why don't you just have a small wedding here? And then we're like, okay, we'll do a small wedding. And then obviously, you know, even though it's small, they keep adding more people. They're like, oh, you know what, we have this person we need to add. Oh, we have this person that we need to add. Anyways, you know, we're really, really grateful, like, you know, to be able to, you know, have the finances to put into the wedding, and then also have support from family, friends as well. It was really a blessing for us. And I will say, like, you know, like, go into it, make sure that you have a budget from the start, like, make sure you discuss between the two of you and decide that this is how much you want to spend. You may go over it. We went over our budget because we realized the actual cost of things. You know, even though we asked other people, how much did you spend on your wedding? You know, we got a good sense of how much other people spent on their wedding, similar to the amount that we wanted to, you know, similar to the amount of people we wanted to invite. But, you know, when you're planning a wedding during a pandemic, after a pandemic, inflation, things are more expensive, so you need to be realistic and create wiggle room for, you know, if things are way more expensive. We got married 4 months ago, things are more expensive now. So you need to think about all of that, take account of, the financial, the economic situation of where you want to do your wedding.
I like that you guys are talking about.
If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and also turn on your notification bell. And also follow us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And stay tuned for part 2 of this conversation. And if you're looking for a group of Christians who are working towards becoming financially free without compromising their faith, look no further and join the Pray and Invest group. And if you're looking to get started in the stock market, you can go to wealthinchristbrand.com and get a free study guide that can show you how you can get started in the stock market completely for free without compromising your faith. Stay tuned for next week's episode.